Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. Do you notice what James says about how your wisdom is revealed? He says, by his what? Good conduct, let him show his works. The way you know a person is wise is not by how much knowledge that person can say, it's by the type of life that person can live. The wisest person is not the person who has a PhD in something. The wisest person is somebody who loves people to the same degree that Christ has loved him or her. A wise person is a person that actually lives the fruit of the Spirit of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control in his or her life. A wise person doesn't even need to open their mouths to show you wisdom. You could just look at that person's life. That's what we call, what Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ, right? Emulate me as I emulate Christ. That's the goal, isn't it? Isn't the goal that you want in your life is that people can look at you and see a picture of wisdom? And you're like, well, I didn't go to seminary. You don't go to seminary to gain wisdom. That's just knowledge. Knowledge is short. That knowledge is not enough. He already mentioned in the previous chapter, you can have mental knowledge faith and it could be dead faith like demons. Demons know a lot. They know a lot more than you and me. Wisdom is not just knowledge. It's knowledge that is seen through God's perspective and applied accordingly. It's not just knowing that you should love your neighbor. A wise person actually knows how to love their neighbor. It's not just knowing how to live by faith. A wise person actually does live by faith. It's not just knowing that a person should be generous. A wise person is actually generous. Do you see the difference? Knowledge is theory. Wisdom is actually life. It comes out. So he starts now by saying, here's the way to know if you're living by true wisdom or false wisdom. He gives a picture of false wisdom, verses 14 through 16. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. Now, there's two words he highlights here. Bitter jealousy, selfish ambition. Now, what is bitter jealousy? Bitter jealousy is literally the word passion. Now, passion in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It just means you have a strong desire for something. But what defines whether a passion is wrong or bad or good, it's dependent on what you desire. If you have a passion for God, obviously that's a good thing, right? So it's not that passion in itself is bad, that you should be passionless. It's saying, what are you passionate about? And this type of person who lives by false wisdom, do you notice the passion, their jealousy is determined by their what? Bitterness. What does it mean that when you are bitter? A bitter person, by definition, can only be bitter when they are comparing themselves to other people. So if comparing yourself to other people is a sign of false worldly wisdom, what's the opposite picture? It's humility. Because humility doesn't compare with other people. It doesn't care about what God is doing to other people. It just focuses on their relationship with God. Do you see the difference? A humble person is not a person who thinks less of themselves. They think of themselves less. They're not part of the equation of their thinking. So they're not thinking, well, I should be getting this because this person got this, or I should be in this position because this. There's no comparison in a humble person because they're not playing that game of life. But a person who's always comparing, they have a passion that is determined by what? Bitterness. Oh, that person went to Paris. I'm going to Rome. That person married at 25. I'm marrying at 23. That person has 3 kids. I'm having 4 kids. That person got a promotion. I'm going to get right? It's comparing, and all you're going to do is get resentful. Because there's always going to be somebody in a better position than you, at least according to a worldly sense, right? And when you compare and you're bitter, the opposite of that is actually humility and gratefulness. If you have a hard time being grateful, it might be because you're living by the wrong type of wisdom in your life. Because the wisdom of this world tells you to be passionate about yourself. Think about all the philosophies and all the things and messages we hear today in culture. Do you, right? Speak your truth. It's all about you. Treat yourself. Blah, blah, blah. YOLO, blah, blah. You. You're the most important you. And if you can't love yourself, you can't love other people and all that stuff. Right? It's a self-centered message. James says this type of wisdom is worldly wisdom. In fact, he adds a second phrase, not just bitter jealousy, but selfish ambition. Now, what is selfish ambition? It's a word that was used to describe politicians during the time of James. So you get these two pictures and you put it together. What is the root of false wisdom or worldly wisdom? It's a person who is always comparing, and therefore they end up bitter, and therefore they get passionate. They're passionate about themselves and about elevating themselves. And in order to elevate themselves, they have an ambition, a selfish ambition, for what? Power. That's why often people who are hungry for wealth or hungry for power, they often go hand in hand. Because what's the common denominator? It's about them. That's why in verse 14, James says to not boast and be false in the truth. In other words, don't be confident in yourself. False wisdom tells you to be confident in yourself, but you cannot be confident in yourself, because if you're confident in yourself, you end up lying to yourself. Because what is the lie? The lie is to think that somehow you are the ones that could determine the meaning to your life. That you are the one that can figure out how to navigate through this life. In fact, look at the words he uses. He uses 3 words to describe this worldly wisdom. First, he says it's earthly. Now, what he means by earthly, he means the source of this wisdom comes from this world. It doesn't come from heaven. Because if you look around you, this is not a new message, right? This message about make it about you or self-centeredness, that's been from the very beginning. What did Satan say to Adam and Eve, the serpent? Did God really say, if you eat of this fruit, this thing, you'll surely die if you touch it? And then what did he question? He made them question God's word by making them what? Center them on themselves. Oh, you know why he doesn't want you to eat that fruit? He doesn't want you to become like him. Make it about you. And then it said in the text, when she saw that it was pleasing to her eyes. That's how temptation works. It's when Satan makes your eyes turn to you. Second word, he says it's unspiritual. This is another way of saying it doesn't come from the Holy Spirit. In other words, here's one way I say it. Think about the last time you made a major life decision, like what job to take, where to live, etc., etc. How many of you made that decision considering the impact it would have on God's kingdom? What's usually the factors we consider on a decision? How would this affect my career, selfish ambition? How would this affect my family, comparing yourself to other families? Well, everyone at this point, you know what this false worldly wisdom is always thinking about? The here and now. To make it about now. Maximize your life now. Do it now. You know what? The only way you can actually start thinking about God's kingdom, instead of thinking about the here and now, you think of what? The eternal impact. And when you think about the eternal impact, it won't make sense with the here and now mindset. Because people who think with the long-term vision, they may not make the same decision that everybody else around them will make on the here and now. That doesn't make sense for you to say no to that opportunity. But the person who lives for God's kingdom say, no, it makes total sense. Because I'm not doing it for that opportunity to rise up or whatever it is. That opportunity will take me away from my main priority, which is for God's kingdom. So if I'm spending 200 hours a week or 150 hours a week in this job, I don't see how much impact I could do for God's kingdom if I'm away from my family. Do you see the difference? What did Jesus say? Seek first kingdom and my righteousness, and all these other things will be. What's those other things? All of these things that this false wisdom is trying to make you obsessed about. We're always obsessed about this, but do we realize how little impact that actually will have on our life? Your job, if you're lucky, you work for 40, 50 years, let's say at the job. What's 50 years compared to eternity? That's it. It's done. Your company's not going to think twice once you're dead. They move on. Who was the CEO of Ford 50 years ago? Who was the richest person 2,000 years ago? Right? It's like we think these things are so important, and yet life just moves on. Nobody thinks about you because you're just focused on the here and now, and you're not thinking about God's kingdom and eternal impact. Do you notice the common trend with all of these traits that James is saying? It's earthly, it's unspiritual, and then look at the dagger, the third word. He says it's demonic. Ooh. So James saying you're demon-possessed, right, if you're selfish. No. This is what he's saying. Okay, let's think about demons. What are demons, by the way? Demons were originally angels. Satan is a demon. He's one of the many demons. He's not the king demon, by the way. He's one of the many demons. So what do demons do? You know what the word devil means? Diabolos in Greek? It means liar, deceiver. So this wisdom It's demonic. It's James' way of saying this type of thinking will lie to you. Let's think about this. How does it lie to you? Once you get this, once you finally satisfy your selfish ambition, then you're going to be really happy. How many of you fell for that lie at some point in your life? Once I get married, then I'll really be happy. How many of you are married? How did that work out? Oh, but once I have kids, then I'm really happy. How many of you have kids? Who has kids? Raise your hand. I didn't notice a single smile of one of you guys when you walked in the room today. Why? Because it's the lie we tell ourselves from this false wisdom. Oh, here and now. Once I build this. Oh, once I have this child. Once I live in this zip code. Once I have this career. Once I have this. And this rat race that you keep going on, the here and now, selfish ambition, passion for yourself. You just end up doing what? Nothing for God in the end. That's the trick the devil plays on you. He keeps putting a carrot in front of you. He keeps moving the goalposts. Oh, don't be satisfied yet. Chase after this. Chase after this. And then you go your whole life being ungrateful, bitter, jealous, and never content. Because what did Paul say was the secret to life? I've learned that the secret of life is to be what? Content. Paul was rich, and then he lost everything. He said, I learned how to be content in either situation. Paul was healthy, and he got really sick. He said, I learned how to be content in either situation. That's the secret to life, Paul says. He didn't say the secret of life is your ambition and your passion. Do you see that? So it said this is a picture of worldly wisdom. So let's